Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Nicaragua webinar entitled Recent Elections on Nicaragua's Autonomous Caribbean Coast. My name is Barbara Larkham, and I'll serve as moderator today along with Nan McCurdy. We're looking forward to our featured speaker, Johnny Hodgson, and we'll introduce him in a few minutes. We also want to thank Yoav Elenevsky, who's providing our technical support, and our many organizational co-sponsors who are being listed now in the chat. The webinars are hosted by the Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition. Before we begin, we have a few requests and announcements. You'll see several buttons available at the bottom of your screen. One button is for closed captions, CC. Just click to turn that on. Also, feel free to use the chat function to offer comments throughout this event, but if you have a question for the speaker, please don't put your question in the chat or we may not see it. Instead, click the Q&A button and place your question there. We'll select your questions from the Q&A to pose to our speaker following his presentation. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be sent to all registrants within the next few days. When it's ready, it will also be posted at nicasolidarity.net and on the YouTube channel of Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition. Please mark your calendars now for our next webinar to be held on Sunday, May 19th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Our featured speakers will be Sophia M. Clark and Yoav Elenevsky, discussing the historic relationship between Nicaragua and Palestine and recent activism in support of Palestine. More information is coming soon. Also, please mark your calendars for the webinar following that one to be held on June 23rd at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We will focus on the human rights industry and how it has been used as a weapon against Nicaragua and other countries. Featured speakers will be Alfred de Zayas, a renowned human rights expert, and author John Perry. If you'd like to become more active in supporting Nicaragua's sovereignty and opposing foreign interference there, please join the International Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition. Excuse me. You can check the website regularly at nicasolidarity.net. Also, please put your name and email address in the Q&A if you'd like to receive action alerts, the weekly newsletter, and monthly meeting notices for the Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition. The coalition meets on the second Monday of each month at 2:30 Eastern Time. The Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition also makes a special important request today. The U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee has just passed a bill which would impose new punishments called sanctions on Nicaragua if the bill goes into effect. But we can still work to stop it. This legislation needs approval by the Senate Banking Committee before it can go to the entire Senate for a vote. We're putting a link in the chat with a sample letter that you can quickly send to our 4 targets on the Banking Committee. Please use the letter, and you can make any changes you want and email it to the addresses provided. Thank you for following through on this important matter. We'll also enter some more information in the chat about other ways that you can get involved or learn more about Nicaragua through a toolkit, the NicaNet email list, the weekly Nica notes, and several ebooks about Nicaragua. And now we'll turn to our webinar for today. The format is as follows. First, we'll hear from Nan McCurdy with current news briefs from Nicaragua. Then, after our featured speaker, the remaining time will be for questions and answers. And now to introduce Nan McCurdy with news briefs. Nan is the editor of the online weekly Nica Notes, published by Alliance for Global Justice. While she's currently doing development work in Mexico, she lived in Nicaragua for over 30 years, and she still visits regularly. Nan McCurdy, you have the floor. Nan, you're muted.
Sorry. Thanks to everyone. Nicaragua, a long-standing supporter of the Palestinian cause, is bringing a case at the World Court against Germany, a major supplier of arms to Israel. In hearings that opened April 8th in The Hague, Nicaragua argued that Germany is facilitating the commission of genocide in Gaza and violating the Genocide Convention by providing Israel with military and financial aid. Nicaragua asked the court to issue emergency orders, saying that as a party to the Genocide Convention, Germany must immediately suspend military aid to Israel. The court has not yet accepted the case, but it is obliged to react quickly to requests for emergency measures. Human rights experts and activists are expressing concern over a flawed and seriously unbalanced report of the group of so-called human rights experts on Nicaragua, known as the GREN, released by the UN Human Rights Council on February 24th. The Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition says the United Nations Human Rights Council is lending itself to the U.S. regime change strategy against Nicaragua by highlighting only evidence supplied by opponents of Nicaragua's government while omitting highly pertinent information submitted to the GREN by human rights experts, organizations, and individuals. An open letter has been sent to the UNHRC, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, and the UN Secretary General, pointing this out. Former UN independent expert on international order, Alfred de Zayas, described the GREN as set up for the purpose of naming and shaming the Nicaraguan government, not for objective investigation. Signed by leading human rights experts, 49 organizations, and more than 300 individuals, the letter says that the GREN's report should never have been published. Coordinator of the Nicaragua Solidarity Coalition, Barbara Larkham, said, "The work of the UN's so-called group of experts is a disservice to the Nicaraguan people. It has deliberately ignored considerable evidence sent to it, contesting its findings. This unprofessional report should immediately be withdrawn by the UN Human Rights Council, and the group should be disbanded." And in the chat, I will put the letter in English and Spanish as well as the signatories. The Board of Directors of the Baptist Convention of Nicaragua issued a statement about the full freedom of worship in Nicaragua, as well as the support it receives from the government. As an institute, we want to share that the Government of Reconciliation and National Unity, presided over by President Daniel Ortega and Vice President Rosario Murillo, has always supported our work, as well as the strengthening of our institutions that are at the service of Baptists and society in general. The National Technological Institute is providing a comprehensive training program in Nicaraguan Sign Language for public servants in order to improve communication with people with hearing disabilities. The current course is for 368 public servants from different institutions. The National Technological Institute and Nicaragua's municipalities reported that the enrollment in municipal trade schools so far this year is 15,047 students, 11,435 women, and 3,612 men. The Nicaraguan Institute of Agricultural Technologies, known as INTA, identified a total of 426 land races, which are locally adapted and traditional varieties of beans. Of these, 385 are red beans, 21 are black beans, 15 are bio beans, and 5 are white bean varieties. They have evolved in their geological areas and habitats to be resistant to climatic variability. Nicaragua is in the center of the origin of bean cultivation, and the study reveals the great diversity and genetic richness of the beans. On April 18th, the government inaugurated the second section of the San Francisco Libre Los Zarzales Highway. This concludes a 26-kilometer-long road, which provides a shorter route between Managua and the North Leon Department. The government delivered 80 outboard motors to fisher people of Corn Island to strengthen their productive capacities after Hurricanes Eta, Iota, and Julia. The 60 and 75 horsepower engines were delivered to 17 women and 63 men as part of the government's support for Caribbean fishing families. So far this year, 6,686 productive packages have been delivered to families on the Caribbean coast. Thank you very much. Back to you, Barbara.
Thank you, Nan. Love to hear all your good news from Nicaragua. Now we turn to our featured speaker, Johnny Hodgson. He is recognized as a Father of Autonomy of the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua for leading the movement to restore the rights of Indigenous and Afro-descendant peoples. He's a representative to Nicaragua's National Assembly and political secretary of the Sandinista Front, FSLN, from the South Caribbean Autonomous Region. Welcome, Johnny Hodgson. We're pleased to have you with us today. You have the floor.
Good afternoon to all. I am so happy to be here and to share a little about the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua, about our autonomy, our development, our democracy, and a little about the past election. I will begin by introducing what is the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua for those that don't know much about that part of our country. So I will begin by saying that the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua is very different from the rest of the country. Our geography, our climate, our history, our culture is very different from the rest of the country. We call ourselves the most multi-ethnic and pluricultural region of the country. We are a very diverse region, the most diverse region of Nicaragua. And we, the people from the Caribbean coast, we value our diversity as our greatest asset. It is very important for us to tell people about our different people, our different identity, our different cultures that we have on the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua. The colonialists in colonial times, they identified that diversity as the greatest obstacle for development. Their way was uniformity. So colonialists and the oligarchy after imposed on the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua as a system of superior and inferior culture, where they define that white is good and black and Indian is bad. You know, God and all the angels in heaven are good and are white, and the devil and all the evil is black. You know, there is no good Indian. The only good Indians are the dead Indians. You know, General Sheridan, Philip Henry Sheridan, got famous in United States for this, for saying that there is no good Indian. The only good Indian are the dead Indians. So in that context, in the whole continent and particularly in Nicaragua, a lot of people didn't want to be identified as Indian or black because automatically you was considered inferior. In Nicaragua, one of the few people that proclaimed his proudness of being Indian was Sandino. Sandino used to say, soy nicaragüense y me siento orgulloso de que en mis venas circula más que cualquier otra la sangre india, que por atavismo encierra el misterio de ser patriota, leal y sincero. You know, Sandino was saying that he's proud of being Indian, which they was trying to make we be ashamed of being Indian or being black. So in a lot of families here and other countries in Central America, in the whole continent, stop teaching their children native language. You know, it wasn't good. It wasn't, people was ashamed of talking their language. And, you know, they used to tell the children that God don't understand those native language. This was the situation we was living in Nicaragua. And then in 1894, the Caribbean coast was incorporated to Nicaragua. But really what was incorporated was the territory and the resources, not the people. You know, the government said that, well, the people from the Caribbean coast, those Indigenous and Afro-descendant people, needed to change if they wanted to be accepted as Nicaraguan. So we begin to live a period of imposition. And that was the situation from 1894 until practically 1979, when the Sandinista revolution triumphed. With the triumph of the Sandinista revolution commit to build a new Nicaragua, a new Nicaraguan nation, multi-ethnic, multilingual, pluricultural nation. So diversity was recognized. And with the recognition of diversity, recognizing that we have Indigenous and Afro-descendant people and that Nicaragua is not a monoethnic country, and the basis of that recognition of the reality, we agree to build what we call unity in diversity, equality in diversity. How we was going to build it? We agreed to build it in the model of interculturality. So with the recognition of diversity as a principle of the revolution, in 1981, the Sandinista published a document called Principles of the Sandinista Revolution Towards the Caribbean Coast of Nicaragua. And in that declaration of principle, one of the most important principles establishes that in Nicaragua, there is no superior culture. There is no inferior culture. What we have is different cultures, and that the cultures of all the people from the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua form part of the Nicaraguan culture and enriching the Nicaragua culture. This was a very powerful message for the people of the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua in 1981. And well, with the time and the basis of that and other recognition, autonomy was approved for the Caribbean coast people, and it was established in the Constitution of 1987. The Constitution of 1987 defined by law that Nicaragua is a multi-ethnic country, that we have native and Indigenous and Afro-descendant people, that they do exist, and that on the basis of that recognition, we declare that the people on the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua have the right to autonomy, intercultural autonomy, based on democracy. So we were able to define our autonomy, and we define our autonomy as the recognition and effective exercise of the historical rights of the indigenous peoples and ethnic communities of the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua in the context of national unity and the constitutional principles. With that recognition of the historical rights of the people, when I talk about historical rights, I am referring to political, economical, social, cultural right, that, you know, this is what was established in the autonomy, that we have these rights, and that we have the right to organize our social, productive, cultural, and cultural political activities according to our own values and tradition. This was very important for us in 1987. Then autonomy was approved. Our historical rights was recognized. And as I said before, things began to change. Even the songs that we sang began to change. Last time I was saying that one very popular song on the Caribbean coast used to be a song saying, "Brown skin gal, stay home and mind baby. Brown skin gal, stay home and mind baby. I'm going away on a sailing boat, and if I don't come back, stay home and mind baby." We began to change all those songs, and that same song, for example, we put a different word with a more constructive message. Pretty black gal, let's build a free country. Pretty black gal, let's build a free country. A place where you and our little baby can live and love and dance in this free country. I'm just giving you an idea of how we began to try to change things. So 2 autonomous regions was established with the autonomy law: the South Caribbean Autonomous Region and the North Caribbean Autonomous Region. And in 1990, we had the first election of autonomical authorities. It was the first time that we on the Caribbean coast was going to be able to elect our authorities at all different levels, because what we had after 1894 was imposition of authority. They used to name the authorities and send them to the Caribbean coast to rule us. So we got our autonomy approved. We elect our first autonomous government in 1980, but the people that won the national election in 1980, they said that they did not agree with autonomy. They declared that autonomy was a mistake. They say it is a big mistake to put practically 50% of the national territory in the hands of Black and Indian uncivilized people. That was the phrase. So you could imagine what possibility we had to exercise the rights that was recognized for us. But well, it was important to have a law establishing that we have political, cultural, economical, cultural rights. But we weren't able to fully exercise them. It wasn't until the year 2006 when we had a national election and the Frente Sandinista won those elections in 2006, even before President Daniel Ortega took possession. He invited all the leaders of the Caribbean coast to come together and sit with the people at national level to try to come up with a consensus of what could be done together to convert the historical aspirations of the people from the Caribbean coast into reality. What could be done or what needed to be done for the people of the Caribbean coast to be able to exercise the rights that was recognized for us in the autonomy law. So we began to work on what we call a human development strategy for the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua. We define that development have to come from within. It have to be we, the people from the Caribbean coast, who define our human development strategy. It have to be a strategy in harmony with nature and the cultures of the people from the Caribbean coast. We made clear that we were talking about full human development. Desarrollo humano pleno, we call it in Spanish. Not any development. We come together to write a human development strategy for the Caribbean coast, but not any development. So we define the type of development that we were talking about, and we call it desarrollo con identidad, development with identity. And what is this development with identity? Is a development where all the different people, los diferentes pueblos, Miskito, Sumo, Rama, Garifuna, Creole, Mestizo, all the different people from the Caribbean coast could participate on equal basis, where none stay behind, and we could participate preserving our identity. That is what we call development with identity, that I can participate and preserve my language, my coconut food, my dance, my Afro hair when I used to have hair, my religion, my complexion, my arts, my culture. And not only that I could preserve this that identify me, but that we could create conditions where each of the people, the Miskito, the Olwa, the Rama, the Garifuna, the Creole, the Mestizo, each one of us could participate on equal basis, preserve our identity and create conditions to become proud of our identity. That is what we call desarrollo con una identidad, development with identity. And I'm not talking about the material things, you know. I'm not talking about the roads, the highways, the water system, electrical energy, the deep water port, our fibra optica, our housing, our hospital. I am talking about these other things that form part of our identity and what make us feel proud. We also, when we were defining autonomy, we said based on democracy. But we try to make clear that we're not talking about any democracy. It's good to explain that in 1894, when we passed to be part of Nicaragua, Nicaragua declared that, well, it was democracy, but what we had was the imposition of authorities. And I'm trying to make all of this clear because I'm going to end up talking about the recent election. So in 1894, we had mayors of our department. You know, I think it's good for you to know that the first alcaldes that was named in Bluefields, was named for the Caribbean coast, was North American citizens, was the people doing business down there. The first alcalde, the first mayor of Bluefields. Bluefields was, they declared the whole department, the whole Caribbean coast as a municipality. And they named the first mayor. That first mayor was a man named Jacob Weinberger. You can look him up and you will find, I think he was from New Orleans. You know, he was the owner of one of the banana companies. And he was mayor of Bluefield for 17 years. And the second mayor that was named in Bluefields was Samuel Whale. Samuel Whale was also from a citizen of the United States. He was the owner of the boats, the shipping line that used to transport the banana from Bluefields to New Orleans. And then other North American citizen was named as mayor. One of the last one was one called Franklin Springer. You know, just to mention that the first 25 years, the mayors of the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua was North American businessmen. And I'm not qualifying them. I'm not even saying if they was good or they was bad, but well, they're dedicated to their business, not to the development of the people, or to work to see that integration was not only integrate the territory and the resources, but also the integration of the people. So I am mentioning these things because I think it will help to understand when I talk about election. After those mayors, that was North American, well, other mayors was imposed, and they came either from Granada or from Leon. You know, our people wasn't good enough to be mayor of our own territory. And the same was done with the governors. After they began to name governors also, and all the governors was generals of the army. So I am saying that when we talk about autonomy, we try to define our autonomy, our our democracy. And some people call it inclusive ethnic democracy. I am not sure if that is the right definition, but well, people have a reason to call it inclusive ethnic democracy. The important thing is that with autonomy, we end the period of imposition of authorities, and we start a period where the people from the Caribbean coast began to elect their own authorities at all different levels: communal, territorial, municipal, regional level, and also participate in the national election. And we're talking about elect all authorities. We're already included Indigenous, Afro-descendant, Mestizo. So the 3rd of March of this year, we had the 9th election, the 9th regional election in our modern history. We had 8 elections before. So from those 9 elections that we have had since 1990, the neoliberal parties won the first 6 elections. In 1990, 1994, 1998, 2002, 2006, 2010, the neoliberals won the regional elections on the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua. It was until the year 2014 when, for the first time, the Sandinista won a regional autonomous election. The second election that the Sandinista won on the Caribbean coast regional election was 2019. And the third election was the one this year, 2024. So the neoliberal government was in office for 24 years, from 1990 to 2014, and the whole Caribbean coast. And the Sandinista won the election in 2014, 2019, 2024, 10 years we have been in government. This election on the 3rd of March, we had 5 different organizations participating. One was the Partido Liberal Constitucionalista, people call them the PLC. Then you had the Sandinista. Alianza Sandinista is an alliance of the Sandinista with 12 different political parties and organizations. These 12, some of them used to be former adversaries of the Sandinistas. You have then a next alliance called Alianza Liberal Nicaragüense, ALN. And next one called APRE, Alianza por la República. And the third one called Alianza PLI, Alianza Partido Liberal Independiente. So the allies of the Frente Sandinista were the PIM, Partido Indígena Multiétnico. These are local parties. The party called Yatamarán. This is a local party. Children of the Soil. Then you have a third local party called PAL, Partido Autónomo Liberal. And then you have a fourth one called MICC, Movimiento Indígena de la Costa Caribe. And then the other part is, and then you have a next one called Miskito Pawanka. And then the other allies are National Party. The first one is Partido Resistencia Nicaragüense. This was the former Contras, what used to be fighting against the Sandinistas. Sandinistas and the Contra fight for years. Then even after 1990, there was a but after a time, the Contras said that we were fighting for the same cause, and it never made no sense to be apart, and the Contras joined with the Frente and is part of that alliance. Then you have a next organization called Alternativa por el Cambio, Partido Liberal Constitucionalista Independiente, PLCI. Then you have Partido Liberal Nacionalista. Then you have Partido Unidad Cristiana, PUC. And you have ARNIC, Alianza Resistencia Nicaragüense. That's a next group of the what used to be called ex-Contras. So we had this election on the 3rd of March. And in the first election that the Sandinistas won in the year 2014, Sandinista was able to get 30 seats from 45. The maximum instance of governmental power on the Caribbean coast is called the Regional Autonomous Council. The Regional Autonomous Council is like the National Assembly on the Caribbean coast. So we have 2 regional autonomous councils. Each one of these councils is made up of 45 members. So in the first election that the Sandinista won, Sandinista got 30 seats in each of the regional autonomous councils. 2014. In the year 2019, the second win of the Sandinista, Sandinista got 33 seats in each of the regional council. And in the year 2024, in the third win of the Sandinista got the 45 seats in both regional councils. This is very important. This year, 180 members of that regional parliament was elected. In years before, we used to elect 90 because none of the members had any alternate member. But today, and with the new electoral law, each member have an alternate member. So instead of 90, we have 180, right? 45 in the south, 45 in the north, that give you 90 plus 90 alternate members. What else I need to say? 90 of all the people elected are women and 90 are men. This is by law, that you have equality. Women and men have the same right, and this have the same right is in all fields, and you are obliged to comply with that equity right whenever you're having elections. So women and men are equally represented in both regional council. And what these regional council does well, as I said, these are the maximum instance of governmental power. They are the ones define the development strategy. I said in the year 2007, we made our first human development strategy for the Caribbean coast, even though Sandinista wasn't in government and the Caribbean coast. Then that strategy was from 2007 to 2020. And then in 2020, we made a new development strategy from 2020 to 2030. So the regional autonomous council, they are the ones to make sure that we are applying these strategy. They are the ones to make the annual development plans. They are the ones who decide who about the different territories. The Caribbean coast today elect, as I said, all our authorities. We elect them. Sometimes we might elect good, or sometimes we might elect bad, but we elect our authorities. But apart from electing our own authorities, we also participate in the election of national authorities, and the people from the Caribbean coast have the possibility of participating in the political, economical, social, and cultural decisions in the country. We are not invisible anymore. We are not excluded out of the national life. So if you look on the national structures, you will also see the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua represented. If you look on the Supreme Electoral Council, it is made up of 7 magistrates. 4 of these 7 magistrates are from the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua. This could never happen before. So who are these 4? One is a mestizo from the mines, Brenda Rocha, she is the president. Then you have one Afro-descendant and 2 indigenous. And well, the other 3 are from the rest of the country. And just like how we are represented in the Supreme Electoral Council, we are also represented in the different parliaments, in the Central American Parliament, in the National Parliament. We have 20, the Caribbean coast have 20 representatives in the different parliaments of the country. And we are represented in the Supreme Court of Justice and in the different institutions. The Minister of Finance from this country is from Bluefields. The Minister of Tourism, the person that is talking in the different countries of the world and inviting people to come to Nicaragua, is from the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua. The Minister of Fishery for the whole country is from the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua. Ambassadors in different countries are from the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua. In Costa Rica, the ambassador is from the Caribbean coast. In China, the ambassador is from the Caribbean coast. In South Africa, the ambassador is from the Caribbean coast. In Zimbabwe, the ambassador is from the Caribbean coast, and other countries that I don't remember right now. So our situation, the situation of the Caribbean coast have changed significantly Sure, there is a lot more to be done, but we are certain, we are convinced that we are on the right track. Our aim, our aspiration is to convert the Caribbean coast in the paradise that it ought to be, a place where Indigenous, Afro-descendant, and Mestizo could live, could love, and could dance in interculturality. And thus, when we made the changes in those songs, one of the verses of that song say, "Pretty black girl, let's build a free country. Pretty black girl, let's build a free country. A place where yellow, brown and black and white can live and love and dance in this free country." You know, in that little song, I am telling you what it is we aspire. A place where yellow, brown, black, and white could live, could love, and could dance in interculturality. You know, interculturality we define as a relation between different cultures where none is above the other, where none is trying to disappear the other, where each one respect the other. That is what we're trying to build on the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua. And with the help of God, we hope to achieve this. We feel like we are on the right track, and we ask for all the help of solidarity and other people to help us to convert these our dreams into reality. We know where we're coming from. We know where we're at right now, and we know where we want to get to. And all we pray for is that we could have peace so that we can work together to, in particularly as Caribeño, convert the Caribbean coast into the paradise that it ought to be. This aspiration is not only for the Caribbean coast, no, but I am talking about this little piece of Nicaragua today. So that's what I wanted to share with you, and I am open for any question. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much, Johnny Hodgson. This was very interesting. I'll just make one comment initially, which is I didn't know all that history that you were talking going back to 1894, you know, and how the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua was so controlled by people from the United States and elsewhere. Corporate interests were in charge. So when you speak of autonomy, you really mean it, that now you have autonomy. Nan McCurdy and I will be taking turns posing questions which are placed in the Q&A by people who are here today. So please continue putting questions in the Q&A so that we have something to go with. I'm going to turn it over to Nan now for the first question.
That was absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much. I've lived in Nicaragua and followed Nicaragua for many, many years, but I really learned a lot. You're not going to be surprised by this question from Lauren Hintz. What is the status of the proposed canal from the Atlantic Ocean to Lake Nicaragua and then to the Pacific?
Once, or I should wait for other questions?
No, go ahead.
Okay. building a canal to join the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean has always been a dream of the Nicaraguan government, of the colonial powers, etc. A lot of treaty and different documents have been signed about building a canal from the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua to the Pacific Ocean. We have always been convinced that is the most viable alternative. Through X, Z, Y reason, the canal was built many years ago through Panama. And well, I think it was good for Panama and for the world to have but the canal in Panama can't fit the actual demands, and Nicaragua have seen the possibility of building this canal, not only for Nicaragua, but for the world. We have a lot more water than Panama. Panama have a lake that is 400 square kilometers to flourish the canal. We have a lake of 8,000 square kilometers, a lot, a huge more lot water than what Panama have. We haven't been able to build the canal maybe through political reasons. I think that someday that canal will be built. We are not desperate for that canal. We are open to building a canal, and what we want to guarantee whenever that canal is built, that all, as how I said when I mentioned our human development strategy, that development have to come from within and that it have to be in harmony with nature and with our culture. So we need to make sure whenever, if a canal is built, that well, all what is nature could be preserved, that mitigation actions could be taken, that reforestation be done, and that our people can benefit also from this canal, and that it would harm anyone. So we made a popular consultation according to international standards and according to what is established by the United Nations. We made this consultation, and basically the people in the area where the canal is supposed to pass are in agreement with building the canal if them can get the right treatment and their rights can be respected. And we weren't able to build the canal because there was a lot of political pressure, but I think also that I don't only think we weren't able to come up with the money, you know. It costs a lot of money to build a canal. But whenever we can get enough, whenever we can get the money, we are open to continue talking about the canal. we have already advanced a lot of the studies. A lot of British have done some of the studies, the environmental studies. A lot of people from different countries have done studies towards the canal. And well, all those studies tell us that it's feasible, it's viable, it's sustainable, it can be done without damaging our environment, and thousands of people and countries can benefit, and we can benefit also. So if that is so, we're willing to go ahead with the canal whenever the money is there to build it.
Okay, thank you. It's my pleasure to read an announcement from the new ambassador from Nicaragua to the United States, who is present with us today. His name is Lautaro Sandino, and we're very happy to have him with us. Welcome. And he has asked us to go ahead and announce this. Good afternoon. On the 4th of May, which is the day of national dignity in the Embassy of Nicaragua in the United States, we will celebrate that day having a video conference with Carlos Arguello, who is the agent of Nicaragua before the International Court of Justice. He will talk about that is Nicaragua's accusation from Nicaragua, accusation of Germany for Germany's support in genocide against the Palestinian people. So the link is not available yet for that video conference, but he will make it available to us soon, and we'll make sure that that gets announced. Okay, so I'm going to turn it back over to Nan for the next question.
Thank you. James Polk has a good question. Given the Sandinistas' recognition of Caribbean coast autonomy way back in the 1980s, why did it take until 2014 for the FSLN to win elections on the Caribbean coast, 8 years after winning elections nationally?
Yes, that's a good question. First, I want to mention that the 4th of May, Día de la Dignidad Nacional, apart from this conference with our representative in the International Court of Justice, that is the day when our regional autonomous councils would be installed by the Supreme Electoral Council. That's the day when all autonomous authorities are installed. That's the only day we used to install authorities, the 4th of May, Día de la Dignidad Nacional. So in a few days, the 4th of May, these authorities that was elected on the 3rd of March would be installed. Why did it take the Sandinista so long to win an election on the Caribbean coast? As I say, it is a good question. We have talked about it. Really, we went improving, but we made that real change in 2014. In 2010, we got very close. But to declare yourself winner, you have to get at least 24 seats in the regional council to have majority. So in 2010, we got 22 seats. We was close to it, but it was until 2014 that enough people was convinced that the Sandinistas is the political party and alliance committed to convert autonomy into reality. Some of these neoliberal parties declare openly that they was against autonomy. But some of them used to say that the autonomy that the Sandinista was offering wasn't the right autonomy, and that they was going to give the people of the Caribbean coast real autonomy. Precisely, that was the preaching in the election of 1990. In 1990, we went in the same electoral process with the national. Was one single election in 1990. Doña Violeta with Daniel Ortega. And the Sandinista was offering autonomy. The Doña Violeta party was offering a better autonomy, was offering peace and investment and the ending of the war. And, you know, we could always understand that the people voted in 1990 for the neoliberal party. And well, supposedly after a time they would realize that neoliberalism wasn't the right alternative. The people on the Pacific coast were able to realize this before the people on the Caribbean coast. So all of us participated in the election in 2006, where the Sandinista reached to government. The Sandinista reached to government at a national level, but on the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua, these neoliberal party continue governing. And well, a lot of it have had to deal with probably the lack of consciousness, and we reach to a level of consciousness today where practically 90% of the people that went to the election the 3rd of March voted for the Sandinista. But you know, it wasn't an automatic thing, and that's why I mentioned that the first 6 elections was won by the neoliberalism. The first 6 elections, and we as Sandinista accepted that we lost, but was very resilient. We lost, but we continue trying to make people conscious. And today, in the 2014, when the people voted for the Sandinista and the Sandinista reached to government, the people realized automatically, practically at the same time, that they had made the right decisions, and they start seeing the changes, not only in the material things, you know, but they begin to to feel the condition to become proud of their identity. And as I said, there is a lot more need to be done, but we are convinced that we are on the right track.
Okay, thank you. We have several questions here that seem related to me, so I'm going to combine them. They all have to do with education in the Caribbean area. Two people have asked, what are the languages that are learned and or taught in schools in the Caribbean area? And then also another person asked us, tell us about the university or universities in the autonomous regions. So can you talk about languages and then also about the universities on the Caribbean coast?
Yes. We, before autonomy, we didn't have no university on the Caribbean coast. University was absent. I myself, to get a university degree, had to go to Managua to study. And it was very difficult for us to go to Managua to study in those years. It was very difficult. I usually, when I talk about autonomy, I just share my own experience going to Managua to study. It used to be a few people that had that practically privilege to go to Managua and study. With autonomy, we were able to build 2 universities. One of them is called BICU. BICU means Bluefield Indian and Caribbean University. And the other one is called Huracán, Universidad de las Regiones Autónomas de la Costa Caribe de Nicaragua. So we have 2 autonomy. I mean, two universities. These universities was created with the mission of preparing the people from the Caribbean coast to be able to transform the Caribbean coast into the Caribbean coast of our dreams. These universities are playing a very important role in the Caribbean coast. And the Caribbean coast, we have 20 municipalities, 20 municipios in the whole region, north and south. And I am so proud to be able to say that in the 20 of the municipalities, we have programs of both of our university. There is none of these municipalities on the Caribbean coast that don't have the presence of a university program going on with people preparing to become professionals are expert to contribute to the development of the region. So that is very important to say that we have these universities, but I think it's even more important to say that these universities are, we declare them as universidades comunitarias, community university. It is totally free. So we have these university right in your territory, and you don't need to spend any money to come to the university. So the children of a magistrate and the children of a campesino, or the children of a person that just make a chamba, as we call it, all their children could go to the same university and could get a professional degree, could get prepared to transform the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua. In what language do children learn in school? We have our own educational system in the Caribbean coast. It is called SEAR, Sistema Educativo Autonómico Regional. Now, we need to, hay que profundizar. We need to deepen the implementation of our autonomical educational system. Our educational autonomical system is based on bilingual, bicultural education. Bilingual, bicultural education. The principle is that children could come to school and could find a teacher in their classroom that will speak to them in their mother language. One of the big problems that we used to have is the falling out of school. Parents send their children to school, and when their child come to school, they will find a teacher that speaking to them in Spanish, and that child in his home, in his neighborhood, in his community or her community, speak only Miskito. And so when the child come to school and the teacher is speaking in Spanish, maybe just a few children in the classroom that come from a Spanish background understand what the teacher is talking. So the child feel like that's not a good place to be. He can't communicate with his teacher. And that's where we began to implement bilingual, bicultural education. This needs some more explanation, but I'm trying to give the idea. So, sometimes in the schools, you have more bicultural than bilingual. We have been able to enforce the bicultural. We need to enforce the bilingual. But we have schools where children learn Spanish and English. We have school where children learn Spanish and Miskito. We have school where children learn Spanish and Garifuna. You know, we have bilingual school, but they are more bicultural than bilingual because we have more facility to make sure that and we are interested in that the children could learn and understand the culture of all the people that live on the Caribbean coast. The language is very important. We define the importance of language, saying that language is the soul of your identity. Es el alma de la identidad. You know, that's the importance we give to language. It's like if I am Miskito, but I don't talk Miskito, it's like if I don't have a soul, you know. So that's the importance we give to language. And we are convinced that we need to enforce the bilingual, bicultural educational system. And that is what we're precisely working on. We have it more on the small level in the preschool, primary, etc. We want all the educational system, even at university level, to be bilingual, bicultural.
Nan?
This is fascinating. We don't have a lot of time left, so I'm going to humbly ask you, to try to keep your responses to the next few questions down to about 3 minutes each.
Mhm.
This question is from James Phillips. He says, "Thank you for this important talk. I lived in Nicaragua during the Contra War, but in the Segovias. Please talk a little bit about the Atlantic coast, or rather what we call now the Caribbean coast, during the Contra War."
Well, during the Contra War, the Caribbean coast suffered a lot. Our ports was also mined. So ships could not come in. So we suffer a lot from the embargo and the blockade. Apart from the military war in our region, we didn't have access to a lot of goods because the embargo, because the blockade. In 1985, I went to the United States and meet with a lot of congressmen invited by Kennedy, Edward Kennedy, Senator Edward Kennedy, to talk about the war and the effect that war was having on the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua, and to ask the parliament members, at least the ones from that party, I think was the Democratic Party, to stop the approval of legal money for the war, and to try to influence to stop the illegal money that was being destinated to finance the war in Nicaragua and on the Caribbean coast. So it was very difficult for us during those years of war. Thank God we're living time of peace, and we value peace as one of our greatest assets. Day before yesterday, 19th of April, we declare in Nicaragua the Day of Peace, and we declare this to use that day every year, not only that day, but especially that year, to build consciousness and everybody could realize the importance of living in peace and the possibilities that we have living in peace. And peace is very important for us, and peace is very important for all people, but people that live situation of war learn to value peace, I think maybe even more than those that never had to go through a war. So that's what the 80s and the war meant to us. We had to be soldiers, and well, thank God we are living and investing our energy today in building autonomy and trying to convert the Caribbean coast in a better place for our people.
Thank you. Once again, I'm going to combine a couple of questions here that people have asked, and they're in both cases, they are referring to criticisms that some people have made of the elections on the Caribbean coast. Let's see. Okay. One person says, I believe that the election turnout was 50%. Were you satisfied with that? And then another person says, there have been criticisms of the recent Caribbean coast elections by the usual suspects. The Organization of American States, OAS, the IACHR, International something for Human Rights, and others, alleging low participation, military presence in polling stations, and so forth. Can you explain whether you believe these criticisms are to be taken seriously or not to be taken seriously? Thank you.
Yes, I think that I don't think I know 50% of the people in age to vote is who voted. 50%. Some of the people that are on the list that can vote, sometimes they are not in their territory. They are not on the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua. A lot of the people from the Caribbean coast still today, they come to work to the Pacific. Hundreds, thousands of people from the Caribbean coast work in Managua in the call centers, just to give an idea, you know. 1,000 of our people work on cruise ships, many thousand. So their names are there, that they are potential voters, but they are not living there in the moment, or that they are not able to vote because they are working out there on these cruise ships, etc. But you can't take them off the list because they have a right, and whenever they come home, they can vote. So this is the situation why we have 50%. I think also that at least many people say, for example, we had more people went to vote in this regional election 2024 than what went to vote in the municipal election in 2022. But I can say that the adversaries of the Sandinistas, I would say a good amount of them didn't go to vote. People give two reasons. One is that they are not totally ready to vote for the Sandinistas, but they are convinced that they should not vote against the Sandinista. They should not vote against a model that is serving them well. People seen the changes. People like the changes. And a lot of the neoliberal are willing to support some kind of way the changes. So some of them come and vote for the Sandinista. Precisely, that's why the Sandinista have so much vote today. Some of them not ready to come and vote for the Sandinista, but they are convinced that they should not vote against the Sandinista because the Sandinistas are doing a good job. that's one analysis that some people make. And others say that probably the neoliberals are not as resilient as the Sandinista. Maybe that's not even the word, you know. The Sandinistas, we went to election in 1990 and we lost. We lost in 94. We lost in 96. 98. We lost in 2002. We lost in 2006. We lost in 2010. But we never give up. We continue working, fighting, trying to convince. We didn't give up. We was convinced about what until we triumph. And well, maybe these other party are not totally convinced about their road. And well, the other question about who is seeing the election or who is observing, you know, the electoral system in Nicaragua established that in each table where you're going to have voting, you have basically 3 members that going to do the counting, etc. And 2 of those members of each table are from the 2 most important political parties in the past election. So in the case of the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua is the FSLN and the PLC. And the 3rd member of each table come from the different political parties that are participating. In other words, every table in this election have 1 member from the Frente, 1 from the PLC, and the 3rd member come from the ALN or the APRE or the PLE. But apart from these people that are around the table that are going to be the ones who count the vote and sign the minutes of the election, each political party name what we call in Spanish a fiscal, a person to be there and each table to observe the process and the counting of the votes. So we have all these political parties, each one name whosoever they name. Some of them name people from universities, some name people from the churches, etc., to be fiscal. And so I think what we have is practically everybody observing the election. Maybe it would be good sometimes to have these organizations, but maybe not these that have been more interventionists than observers to accompany our election. Hopefully one day we could have these some other organizations that are not interventionists to be present at our table when we have in these elections. The important thing though is that is in the autonomous election is we, the people of the Caribbean coast, electing our authorities and trying to do it to the best of our abilities and doing it to the best of our ability and having the different political parties to see that the numbers, that the whole process is correct, and you have a statement signed from each poll, each voting table.
Thank you. Nan?
We have a question here. Can you speak a little bit about the recent hurricanes and the responses to them? And I would just add to save lives.
Yes, hurricane is one of our biggest natural threat. Hurricane have always been a threat to us, but in these actual times, due to climate change, hurricanes are more frequent. And we and other Central American countries have get hard hit from hurricanes. So the last 3 hurricanes, serious hurricanes that hit us was Eta and Iota. That year, you had so much hurricane that the names run out, and they had to begin to use these other type of name, Eta, Iota, Gamma, etc. And these was real heavy category 4 and 5, the maximum category. And they destroy a lot of communities. But since 1988, when we had Hurricane Joanne, we have learned, we have get a lot of experience, you know, and we define experience as not what happened to you. Experience is what you do with the things that happen to you. So we have learned a lot from that hurricane in 1988, Joanne. We had, I don't remember exactly how much people died in Hurricane Joanne, but since then, when we have these terrible hurricanes, they do a lot of destruction, destroy forests, destroy houses, etc. But we have learned very well how to save people's life. And we are very, very well organized to save lives. We have 3 national drills every year. We basically drill on the Caribbean coast for hurricane. And these are very educational processes. So when a hurricane coming, practically everybody know what to do. They know where to go. It's not that people begin to run in wild and running going anywhere. No, we might surely need to learn some more, but we have learned a lot. I mean, I feel like we learned so much like that we are even able to teach people. I always remember in 1988, when Hurricane Joanne hit us, I had 3,195 people under my care, and I was very young. And in the middle of the hurricane, I received an order to move all that 3,195 people from where we were to a different ubication. We were too near to the water, to the Bluefish Lagoon. And it was a very, very, very tough thing to move 3,195 people in the midst of a hurricane. And some of these people was elderly, some was sick, some couldn't walk, etc. You could just imagine. So we have learned a lot. And then the last hurricane that hit us, we haven't been able to recover from all these blows. We have schools still that we haven't been able to rebuild their roof. We have built back a lot. We build practically there is no family house, home that is without a roof from any of these hurricanes. But we still have some public buildings that we have not been able to rebuild totally. We are prioritizing the rebuilding of schools, actually. But as I say, we are now, apart from securing people's life, we are working on what we call securing people means of life, los medios de vida de las personas, and that they don't last their boat, that they don't last their engine to go out to sea. There are certain things that we can't protect. So when the hurricane hit the people that fishing lobster, for example, they lost a lot of what they have done in the sea bottom. You know, I don't want to get into this. Anyhow, yes, we are close to what we call excellency in preserving people's life during these emergencies. We are improving in protecting people's medios de vida, means of life, and we are doing our rebuilding, our reconstruction, taking into consideration all what could be done so that when a next hurricane hit you, it will, your houses, your homes could resist some more. Just to give you an idea, we had thousands of houses that lose their roof with Julia. Julia was 2022. And we have been working with families to build back their roof, but this is not a program to give people zinc so that they go and rebuild back their roof. No, we have people assisting them to build the roof in a way that it could be, we call it reconstrucción resiliente de los techos. It doesn't mean that if a hurricane comes that the roof will not fly away, but we are building it in a way that it could stand a better chance to resist the strength of the winds. So we train a lot of people in the universities. All the students that are studying civil engineering, we give them special courses and they accompany the teams in the different neighborhoods to help the people rebuild back their roof. So we are making that effort, and we call it, as I say, reconstrucción resiliente de techos. Resilient reconstruction of roofing.
Well, it's just amazing the lengths to which the government and the people in the area went in order to preserve life, to make sure that people stayed safe during those two hurricanes. I remember hearing about it at the time and how many people were participating in that effort. I'm wondering, could you tell us, please, how many people did die in the hurricanes Iota and Eta?
Well, on the Caribbean coast, we didn't have any people that die in Eta, Iota, or Julia. I think probably I'm not too sure if anyone died, but on the Caribbean coast where the hurricane hit, we didn't have no one die. Sometimes
Yeah.
in other part of the country, when we get a hurricane, the rivers or so forth grow and flood, and people try to cross a river that is flood, and I'm not too sure. I think I heard something, but I can assure you that on the Caribbean coast, we didn't have any fatality.
That's what I thought. I wanted to double check that. Yeah, that's remarkable. I believe that the same was not true in Honduras, for example, unfortunately. Yeah. Well, I regret that our time is coming to a close here. In fact, we've gone over on the time because this is just so very interesting. And there are two more good questions that we're not going to ask you that we would have liked to ask you. But maybe we can figure out another way to get those questions answered. We want to thank you so much, Johnny Hodgson, for your time with us, and we thank all of the people who have stayed on all this time too in this webinar to hear you. Now we would ask you for any final words that you may have before we close.
Well, I really like to talk about the Caribbean coast and the transformation that we are making on the Caribbean coast. I am always willing to share this with people. I like to talk about how we build these two universities with the objective, with the mission of transforming the natural resources of the Caribbean coast, making the best use of these natural resources that we have been bountifully blessed with. And I am so happy to talk about our autonomy, knowing, acknowledging, realizing that there is a lot more to be done, even in the bilingual bicultural education. We are clear that we need to deepen this model. We like the model. It's a very good model. It's not so easy. It's even plenty more expensive to do bilingual bicultural education. You see, if you only think of bilingual, it is not that. But we're not talking about just translate from one language to the other. You know, it's more than that. It's the whole culture that you want to get into the education, because this is what we think going to give us this, what is so important, what we call interculturality. You know, that we can't see the development of the Caribbean coast. We can't see that Caribbean coast of our dreams, that place where yellow, brown, black, and white can live and love and dance, if we don't have interculturality in everything and clear in the minds and heart of our people. So it's very nice to work having these things clear and committed to it, and it's also nice to share it with you. I am very willing anytime to come here and share some more with you.
Well, thank you so much to everyone who participated in this today, particularly our speaker. Nan, do you want to close us out?
Yes, I think you are wonderful. This was fabulous. And now we want you to write an article for what we call Nika Notes plus other things so that people who weren't here can read it. The other thing is by Wednesday, we'll have a video of this, which will go to everyone who registered, more than 100 people. So, you know, your work here with us today will get seen by more people, and we are so appreciative. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Goodbye to everyone. Thank you.